Golf gloves have been around for over a century, but they never seem to stand the test of time. It's time to stop playing short-lived, frail, crusty leather gloves and start playing with game-changing Claw golf gloves. Exclusive silicone palm provides consistent grip that never blackens, hardens, or tears. Breathable mesh promotes outstanding airflow, keeping hands cool and sweat-free. Add in being machine washable, the Claw delivers more rounds than typical stale old leather gloves. Golfers, it's time to expect more from your golf glove.
Having a corporate or charity golf event? Backswing Golf Events can supply your tournament with personable, professional golfers to entertain and fundraise on the golf course. They can accommodate any size group, whether it be 3 players to 500. They are your team. From range lessons, Beat the Pro, and Pro-Am style roaming, they're making lasting memories one swing at a time. So make sure to check out backswinggolfevents.com or call us direct at 661-316-3093 and book your pros now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to On Par with Amanda. We are asking Mr. Biggs to join us today.
Peace!
Hello, hello.
What up, what up?
So I'm actually really excited because every time we say we're going to revisit a topic from the week previous, once we get more info, it always takes a really long time to get that info. But this is one of the things. So last week we talked about the golf rollback rule that they are trying to enforce in the future for pros only. They are trying to limit the flight of the golf ball and the technology that goes into this golf ball. And boy, oh boy, do we have some opinions today.
Well, I will tell you on our website right now, you go there under our press releases and Golf Data Tech, expedited a survey going out to just, everyday golfers, not the pros, but everyday golfers on what their opinions was. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. I know you got the pro side of things here on this segment. So, yeah, let's hop right into it.
So I want to start with, so obviously a lot of elite tour players are not too thrilled. So Justin Thomas, he had this huge rant and went on to basically say, I was disappointed and surprised and all of these things, that this is just, he said, if you're swinging 127 miles per hour, more power to you. People are running faster now too. So what? And they're going to make the length of a mile longer. So the fastest mile time doesn't change. So he's heavily in support. He's obviously one of the longer hitters, but he's not the longest out there. Justin Thomas, he's a good player, but he just thinks that it isn't fair that we are accommodating and trying to make it, which in a way, I understand that. It's like the everybody needs a participation award type deal. He's going that route with this argument. I don't know that it fits here, but I can respect where he's coming from, that the guys that are swinging, like he said, 125 plus, they've worked hard to get there.
Well, I'll give you one guy for an example, Bryson DeChambeau, who is, on the science end of golf.
Yep.
So just this past weekend, he was playing in the Live Tour, and they had a little segment, and so he plays one length shafts.
Yep.
So as a prank, they changed his driver shaft to a 7-iron length shaft.
Right.
So he's hitting his driver with a 7-iron length. Okay. He hit that thing 317 yards.
Jeez.
But here's a guy that has worked on his body to do that.
Yes. He has worked his whole career on, like you said, merging the science with his physical side to get where he's at. What I think is interesting, though, is so Bill and I talked about it last week. If you limit, the same technology is limited across the board. If I'm hitting the ball 375 yards and you're hitting the ball 315 yards. If we change to the same technology, wouldn't we relatively move down the
Yeah,
scale and I would still be 50 yards ahead of you?
right.
It would just alter the ending result, the ending length,
So I
but
did
it's
some
not
research.
changing.
I did some research this week about it, and it seems to me that the RNA and the USGA wants to make this for not just elite players, but for the amateur competitions. Now,
Interesting.
where does that leave me as a guy that hits a 230-yard drive?
Right. Do you now hit the ball 200 yards?
Right. Is that
Like
fair? I don't
like
think so.
so it's interesting you say that because Rory was kind of so Justin Thomas, Bubba Watson, we'll get to him in a minute. He was pretty outraged, but Rory McIlroy actually has quite a different opinion and not the favorable one at that for the tour players, but he said that the more if the Masters and the championship events are heading that way and the PGA doesn't follow, it's creating more of a gap between the two. So he's like, we have to be on the same page. His biggest concern was affecting non-elite amateur players. So he said, as long as it doesn't touch the amateur side of golf, I'm all for it. He said, I think we hit the ball. We're going to continue. And this is what I was saying. We're going to continue hitting the golf ball in the same comparison. It's just going to be on a different scale. But like if Rory outdrives Justin Thomas by 50 yards, he's going to continue outdriving him by 50. It's
Right.
going to be dialed back.
It's just dialed
Um,
back 15 yards on each person.
Right. Bryson will still be one of the, if not the longest hitter on tour. It's just not going to be 400 yards.
Right.
But I will say that Bubba, one of his things was he used Bryson DeChambeau for an example and said, it just because you hit it further doesn't mean you hit it straight. And I agree with that. We all know that, like, yes, Bryson got to the point where he was just driving almost every green and just outrageous, but he was in trouble. He didn't win every golf tournament.
He suffered in other areas.
Yeah, we didn't see him because if that were true, he would go out and literally win every single event he ever played in.
Right.
You think that yes, but you still have to putt, you still have to chip. Now you're bringing in different issues
Right.
that you maybe weren't long enough to reach before. You're in greenside bunkers, you're in all of these things. So I know Bubba's outraged about it, and so is Justin Thomas. But like Rory said, what is this changing other than the number on the distance? It's not changing where you are driving in the field.
Yeah, it's not going to change the statistics of where people stand on
No.
who's out driving who or
No.
whatever the case might be. I mean, my opinion is if you want to make things more difficult, make the courses difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Make these tournaments difficult. Challenge these guys. I know a lot of times there's 7,000, 7,500 yards on a PGA Tour event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, make them think about it and have them play at 7,200 yards or something like that with difficult rough conditions.
Right.
Like the U.S. Open is like, you go to Bethpage Black and that's 4-inch rough on a black course, and
Yeah.
you don't see 27 under at Bethpage Black,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, and not to say Live Golf. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see the last two tournaments on TV. Those guys got into some trouble, and when you get in trouble, you get into trouble.
You're in trouble for sure.
And you've seen triple bogeys and quads out there, and
Mhm.
you're like, these guys are human. These guys,
Yeah.
but it's the way the course is set up. It's not the
Yeah.
equipment. It's not the ball. It's how the tournament sets up these courses each day.
Yeah. Well, and we've played a multitude of courses all over, and I will say that yes, you can take the same golf course and the way that you set it up can change your game by 10 strokes. I mean, it's amazing. I've played I've played courses like Torrey Pines when it's not set for a tournament, and I've played it when it's set for a tournament. And I will tell you that it is almost it's kind of one of those surreal things that when you're out there playing in tournament conditions. Same with the waste management. We play it every year after the fact. Why do you think I set our pros to a super easy, like we let the female pros, we play up, we play a really short yardage because we want to see good scores. They're in front of our client. Like we want everybody to play well. But if you are in the rough all day, I'm going to go out as a pro and shoot 85.
Yeah.
Because everything is set so difficult. So I think there's other ways to go about.
What I like to see is more risk reward holes.
Yes.
Because that is where you're going to see people's skills.
Yep. They have to hit good golf shots, not just
right. And that's where you get the 127 mile per hour swings. That's a risk reward shot because anybody that swings that fast is not going to be, 90% accurate down the fairway. You're just going to be right or left and sometimes down the fairway. But at 127 miles per hour, risk reward every time you step on the tee box.
Yep. And I think, keeping it, I'm with Rory. Like, is this going to touch the amateur side of golf? They say it's not, but because that would be a different.
Golf Data Tech and what I researched this week,
I know.
Yes, it's going to touch the amateur competitions.
I know. And that's rough because the technology is already such a big part of the game. People and even Bubba was like, the commercialism, that's what pays USGA golf bills. So you have to be careful with how you're spinning that, because if you're losing the average golfer, you want it to be more appealing and more fun, and you want them to hit it straighter and further. So it'll be interesting to see what happens pro versus amateur, but I think you have a lot of outraged pro golfers. Rory, I think, is in the small amount that actually feel that, hey, you know what? We got to be a unit. We got to do this. So we will keep that in mind and keep updating you. And we'll talk about the data tech. You guys talk about that in the third segment, which that is very interesting data. And I was actually shocked at the results. So thanks, Biggs, for joining us. And you at home, thank you. Make sure to write in to Biggs Golf Talk and A. Robertson Golf on Instagram. And until next week, keep swinging for par.